Good morning. If you have clients that late cancel and no show still on you, and even though you have a policy in place, this is a live for you. I'm so excited to go over this topic with you and share with you how to negate this, how to get this out of your business, because it is losing you thousands of dollars a year. This is going to be like the most wildest statistic you hear. So thank you for being here. First things first, I want you guys to know this is a safe space and a judgment-free zone. It's actually shown that if you don't feel safe somewhere, you can't learn and you can't grow. And so it's really important for me to cultivate this safety and this place of being able to show up real your journey. And I want you to know that there's no shame in this space right now. We're going to be bringing things up, and maybe you still struggle with something and you're embarrassed at this point of your career, you're still struggling with it. Like maybe I was talking all last month about client, am I back? Can you guys let me know in the comments? I don't know if Mercury's in retrograde. I've stopped paying attention to that stuff, but that whole pause due to poor connection shows up. I went off my Wi-Fi. Can you guys let me know if you can hear me right now? Because it's really important to talk about this topic in a place where we feel safe to talk about things, when we feel so frustrated. And so I want to remind you guys that this is a safe space and a judgment-free zone where we can show up real, raw, honest, and vulnerable together, knowing that this is here to help us grow. And what that means is you guys being able to kick that inner critic. I know you're kind of compassionate to other people, but you're really extremely hard on yourself. And you need to stop being so hard on yourself. So can you please put a 1 in the chat if you agree to this being a safe space and a judgment-free zone, so that we can all show up, including yourself, kicking that inner critic to the curb, being open and ready to understand and hear new things from a different perspective, maybe looking at a part of yourself with more honesty than you've been willing to before, and being willing to grow together so that you can build the life, business, and bank account that you've always dreamed of. Because that's really important to me, is your life, then your business, then your bank account. I was talking with Ryan Whedon last week. If you guys can go watch that live, it's like a 10-15 minute live. It's on my feed. And he talked about the be, do, have. And so many people want to have, be, and then do, right? You want to have the things you want, then you'll be the person that when you have the stuff, then you'll be the person, and then you'll do the things or something, but it's really, you have to be the person that you want to become, do the things, and then you'll have what you wanted. And that's really hard. We're waiting to have the things we want first before we then do and be. And so let's talk about late cancels and no-shows. And I want to remind you guys, this is a conversation. I don't do these lives to be someone talking on a screen at you. I do these lives to be in conversation with you. I thrive off of your energy, and I actually do the best and come up with the best knowledge and wisdom for you when you participate with me. So can you put a 2 in the chat if you're willing to participate today? Because I want to know that I'm talking, I don't know, these things that happen on lives. I don't know. Am I going to make I don't know. Sometimes these weird things pop up. But put a 2 in the chat if you're willing to participate with me today, because I want to bring you solutions that are actually going to fit for you. And so, yes, Ash and Nail, I love it. Thank you. So I want to know, and I want to ask you guys, there's a question box down here if you have questions for me as well. But I want to talk about cancellation policies. If your clients, how many of you guys have a cancellation policy in your business, or a late cancellation, like either a no-show or late cancel policy in your business? Put a yes in the chat if you do, a no if you don't. Remember, this is a safe space and a judgment-free zone where we can show up real, raw, honest, and vulnerable together. Because my students that are in Rock Your Business know how important it is to have a policy, but having a policy isn't enough. And I have a program called the Policy Pathway for a reason. And so those of you guys that have said yes so far to having a policy, do you enforce it? Put a capital E if you enforce it. Not yet, Stacy says. Yeah, perfect. Well, that's great. Stacy, stick around, because I'm talking a lot about policies and you need to communicate them, follow through on them, and implement them. Okay, we have people enforcing them. Hells yes, I love it. Okay, well, no shame. I would say 90% of our industry have, I don't know how many have them, but 90% of our industry have cancellation policies, and maybe 10% enforce them that have them. And so what I need you guys to realize, I'm an employee at a salon, and unfortunately they don't have a strong policy. That's tough. That's very tough. And so I actually found a definition on my computer today of what a cancellation policy is, because I think some people are confused. And I'm going to say this with a little tongue in cheek, but a lot of times what I see is people have cancellation policies. And I'm curious if there's anyone, actually, before I go into it, and remember, this is to share an example of does anyone know what their cancellation policy states off the top of your head? Or does anybody know what their cancellation policy states, and like kind of like let me know what is your cancellation policy in the comments? My cancellation policy stated you needed to give 24 hours notice if you're going to cancel. And if you canceled under 24 hours notice, you were subject up to a full charge of the appointment. And then what I would do is I would have a face-to-face conversation with my clients about what that meant. If I could replace somebody, if I could fill that spot, then they wouldn't get charged the full price. But if I was unable to fill that spot, then they would get charged full price. However, what I see happening, Patricia, I just enforced my policy on a long-standing client, I'm guessing, and then she decided to come to the appointment. I had mixed feelings about that. So this is what happens, and I think Kelly, are you still in here, Color Witch? I found an old screenshot from a conversation that we had where someone was wanting to late cancel on Kelly, and she's like, yeah, and I told her, like, FYI, as per my cancellation policy, you will be charged. And then the person's like, actually, you know what? I'll come. So a lot of times people are testing the waters. People will push to see what they can get. And it's no, hi, Lauren. And it's no disrespect to you. People only pay you what you charge them, and people will push you as far as they can get. And it's not, I don't believe your clients are doing this with bad intentions, right? They're saying, hey, I have to cancel, I can't come. And usually what people think, they have like conflicting things come up. And they go, well, what's the thing that's going to be the most flexible? And then you have to decide, do I enforce my policy? Okay, Kelly says, any cancellation under 48 hours, they'll receive 50% fee. If they no-show or text me during their appointment, they get a full fee. Fee equals cost of what they have booked. I love that. So this is going to blow your guys' mind a little bit. But a cancellation, according to Google, a cancellation policy is a written agreement between a service provider and their client that clearly defines consequences, typically a fee if a client cancels an appointment. However, I see all the time, and tell me if you're guilty of this, because I 100% have been guilty of this. A client late cancels and I get frustrated, and you feel you're frustrated and you feel so disrespected that they late canceled. And you're like, I can't believe they would late cancel or no show. And you're like, they're so disrespectful. How do they disrespect my business like that? Put a yes in the comment if you've ever felt that. When someone's late canceled or no showed and you're pissed and so freaking angry that they are so disrespectful to your business, and you feel justified, you feel annoyed. However, ask yourself, am I following through on the consequence? Am I frustrated because I have to follow through on something that's a little uncomfy for me because I still struggle with feeling worthy of enforcing a policy? Am I frustrated with them because they're not offering the consequence to do the consequence? I mean, think of a little kid, and when they know the consequence of their actions with their parents, like if you, I don't know, I'm not a parent, but I always use kids as an example. If you don't clean up, then you're not going to get a treat. The kid's going to still come for the treat, and they're not going to say like, well, I don't get a treat today. Maybe some kids do. It's your job. You're not frustrated with your client. You're frustrated with yourself because now you have to follow through on something that you don't know if you're fully worthy of doing, because you feel guilty because you're like, it's like I'm making money off of not doing anything. And we got to scratch that, because when you guys go through my perfected pricing method that I teach, which is in the metrics that matter, it teaches you that your business you're not making money. Your business costs you money every hour that you work. And so when a client doesn't show up, or when a client late cancels, it's not that you're not making any money, you're actually losing money, because each service and each hour you work costs you something. And I know we're not numbers people, but you need to remember that late cancels and no-show cost you. And it's not that your clients are disrespecting you, it's that you're scared to stand up and demand respect and follow through on the consequence. If you have communicated with your clients, and I have the 5 touch points of how to communicate change, I really believe having your cancellation policy in tiny little text on your website or in a confirmation email is not enough. It's a good start. But you need to have, if you've had the conversation with your client and they have agreed and they have signed off on your cancellation policy and the consequences, why are you scared to follow through? And I want to ask you that, because this was me too. My clients knew my cancellation policy. But I was having a conversation with them about it, so I was scared that they didn't actually know it. I was scared that they didn't think I was worthy, that like they were gonna have a huge reaction and they were gonna freak out. And when I started using my communication pathway that I teach in the policy pathway, in how to, what are all those dots? When I started using this communication method, in how to communicate my policies, my price increases, my schedule change, how to communicate change in my business or just communicate my business methods and consequences, everything changed. I was no longer scared. I was confident. I didn't worry about explosive responses. And so you can't be frustrated with your clients when you're actually just nervous and worried about conflict, and so you fall back. You would love for your clients to offer to pay, right? That does happen when you communicate well some of the time, not all the time. When you follow my pathway method, clients will offer to pay, but not everyone's going to offer because that's not their job. It's you as a business owner. You need to step up and be the responsible business owner for your business, taking care of your business as if it's your infant. Which means going absolutely, and this is where people get a little bit, we don't have the vocabulary. You don't have the vocabulary to communicate compassionately. So you have someone late cancel and you're frustrated and you think that they're disrespecting you. You automatically jump the gun and make assumptions that people are out to get you. And this is a logical solution you've come to in your life because you've probably been taken advantage of and used and abused by friends or whatever in your life, family. And so you jump to the conclusion that someone's trying to pull one over you and be an asshole to you, rather than maybe they just forgot, maybe they didn't know, or maybe they're waiting for you. And so instead of being like snarky and bitchy and insert whatever and frustrated and aggressive, how can you compassionately show up and go, hey, no problem, we can absolutely late cancel, or hey, you had an appointment today, I'm not sure if you noticed. Start a conversation and let them know, like, I will have to follow through on my cancellation policy that we've discussed. Now, if you haven't discussed it with your clients, that's where you need to start implementing a pathway of communication with your clients so they understand and agree to your policy and the consequences of it. Same with, you need to develop a communication pathway of learning how to tell your clients about a new price structure and that doesn't elicit a combative response of like hairstylists or service providers charge so much these days, right? I know you're scared of that conflict. You're scared, and so you would rather, even though on average, the average service provider loses $15,000 a year to late cancels, no-shows, and emotional discounts. $15,000 a year. Even though you want to get that back and you don't want to lose that and you want that extra 15 grand in a year, when it comes to the moment that you have to enforce a policy, that you have to charge someone or you have to remind them of it, your nervous system is so fight, flight, or freeze that you're like, what's right in front of me? Do I care about this $200 or would I rather just avoid an uncomfortable possible conflict confrontation? And you opt for, in that knee-jerk moment, you opt for safety, not money. And so you're sacrificing your financial well-being because your nervous system is all over the place and you're so scared of conflict. And so what we need to do is actually heal your nervous system, get you understanding how to communicate more compassionately and in a way that elicits understanding so your clients don't feel you're so nervous about a conflict that you're blurting things out of nervousness and it's actually coming across aggressive, which elicits a combative response. When you show up on a field to play soccer and you start on defense, the other team's only other option is to play offense. Or if you show up on the field playing offense, the only other team is to put up their defenses, right? You need to stop going into it like it's a battle and you need to start showing up with compassion and communicating, giving people the benefit of the doubt and letting them know, hey, I'm not sure. So case in point, if I can share an example with you guys for a second, and then if you've got questions, start popping them in here because I'll scroll through and ask them. I remember one day, this is like over 10 years ago, it was a friend of mine completely no-showed her appointment and I was pissed. I was like, I can't believe it. Like a friend of all people. Like, who does she think she is? She thinks she can get away with this? Like, just automatically jump to the worst assumptions, thinking she's like, well, because she's my friend, she thinks she can late cancel. Just not show up. I'm pretty sure I left a snarky voicemail like, hey, I hope you're on your way. Like, just so you know. And then half an hour later, I was like scrolling through Facebook, because this is like pre-Instagram. And I see that her sister's like, pray for my sister. She was in a car accident. We don't know if she's going to make it. I felt like a complete asshole. I jumped to the worst possible conclusion that she was trying to screw me over. I left a snarky voicemail on her phone. Since that moment, that is when things started to shift with me. I went, I'm not going to assume someone's trying to screw me over. Why do I have this automatic reaction thinking everyone's out to get me? Why do I think everyone's trying to take advantage of me? Why do I think, hi Shay, why do I think that and assume the worst? And so I started in that moment when I found out that my client didn't no-show me to be a jerk, but I no-showed because they were in the hospital after a car accident, I started to have more compassion. And so when someone's late, when someone no-shows, I don't assume, and I reach out first and say, hey, I just want to make sure everything's okay. You had an appointment. Or if someone's like, hey, I got to cancel and I can't come, I'm like, first of all, I check in with them. Is everything okay? I show that I care. Care is a really important part of it. But care does not mean letting someone walk all over you and take advantage of you. You can still care for someone and enforce your policy. Hey, is everything okay? Yeah, no, like a meeting came up at work and I'm not gonna be able to make my appointment. No worries. Just wanna remind you of the cancellation policy. I will be following through on it. And not saying, will that work? I see people being like, is that okay? You don't ask for permission. If your client has agreed to the policy, so long as you've communicated it ahead of time and they've agreed to it, that's the important part. A lot of people, like I said, you have your cancellation policy in tiny little text on your website, or you have your cancellation policy in a confirmation email. That's not enough. Your clients aren't looking for that. You know it's there because it's your business and you know the ins and outs. Clients are not looking for that information. And so it's important to have it in the confirmation email. It's important to have it on your website, yes. However, you still need to have a conversation about it face to face. And so long as you've had that conversation with them face to face and they've agreed to the consequences and they understand the consequences, when it comes to, a meeting came up at work, I'm not able to make my appointment, no worries. Thanks for letting me know. I will have to enforce the cancellation policy that you've agreed to. Just wanted to give you the heads up. And a lot of times people will go, oh, you know what? I think I can move that meeting. People are just seeing, they're just, I don't want to say testing the waters, but sometimes they forget. Or when they realize, the consequence, then they weigh the options again. And so having that compassion, that care and that compassion without wavering, care and compassion does not mean people get full range to walk all over you. Care and compassion means communicating well and clearly, but still having confidence and respect for yourself and your business. I've lost clients recently for putting booking policies in place. Yeah, and you might lose people, and those are probably the people that you didn't want in your business anyway. So when I started charging for consultations, $100 for 30 minutes. And I did it to dissuade people from booking with me because I had so many new clients coming. I teach clientele building because I know how to build a clientele really well. And right now, you guys can still get in on the client magnet if you want to get on it. It's a live container where I'm teaching you how to build your clientele in under 12 weeks. And we're having a workshop today on how to craft your content. Like, you're going to get one-on-one with me in the group call on how to craft your content to get clients swarming to book with you. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a DM. But I teach clientele building because I know how to build a clientele. I built a clientele so well that I couldn't keep up with the demand. So I enforced a $100 consultation fee. It didn't go towards an appointment. I was trying to dissuade people from coming to me. Turns out women love exclusive shit. The only pushback I got from charging for consultations was from other hairstylists, which is interesting because it literally didn't affect their business at all. But what I found is when I had I'm not just as a hairstylist, I wasn't just what my hands do. My knowledge, my skill, my experience is what makes what I do well. The doing is just part of it. The knowing, the wisdom, the experience, that's like 95% of it, right? It's like, have you seen that thing about, it's like, an electrician, like cutting the wire is $1, knowing which wire to cut is like $999. It's not doing the hair, it's what the experience. So knowing my time was worth something and trusting it, but also trying to get people to not book in with me that weren't right for me. So I wanted people to do their research on me first. So I wanted to attract more of the right clients and repel the wrong ones. And so I put this consultation fee in place, and I got swarmed with clients, and they were all good clients. I only had to say no to 2 people in like the 4 or 5 years that I was implementing this full-time behind the chair. I now educate full-time. But I want you guys to know that putting a fee with it made people do their research on me. And this is what I teach inside the policy pathway. If you guys didn't know, it's all about how to communicate change confidently and have respect for your business so that you're not losing that $15,000 a year to emotional discounts, not charging late shows, late fees, and etc. And so when I started to charge for my consultations, people listened to my consultations more. And inside my consultation, I went through my policies and I made sure people signed off on all of them. I made sure they understood, and I was very clear about the consequence of each policy. Is this making sense? Put a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. And I'm going to go back because I missed a whole bunch of comments. If there's anywhere that you want me to expand on, let me know. Okay, Tanya. Currently I have to go along with my salon policy, but once I start my own place, I know I'm going to be more prepared for this stuff. Absolutely, Jenny. Jenny joined Rock Your Business and like totally has killed it. I think you joined like while you were in hair school, which is so cool. I just started in a new town, but the guy I rent from has clients that actually offer to pay for a missed appointment. I've seen it 3 times already, working on training mine. Yes, absolutely, Tanya. So my clients, true story, it's a crazy snowstorm here in Calgary. I live a 7-minute drive from my salon. And I remember it took me like 45 minutes to get there that morning. And then I get there and I get a phone call. My client's like, I left my house 90 minutes early. I'm stuck in traffic. I know that you're really strict about your policies. Charge my card. I'm trying to get there. It was completely out of her control, and she offered. That shows me that I had built trust, respect, loyalty, and authority with her. Through my communication pathway that I teach inside the policy pathway, I'd only met with this person once for a consultation. She paid me $100 for half an hour of my time to then book an appointment. So I'd only met her once for half an hour. I was so clear. It wasn't that I was aggressive or domineering. I am a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser through and through. It wasn't that I was bullying. It's that I built trust, respect, loyalty, and authority with her through how I communicated without going walk all over me. Because here's the thing. A lot of us people pleasers think, well, if I don't have any boundaries up, people will respect me because I'm so available. People actually disrespect people who don't have anything set in place. If you don't have any boundaries, if you don't have any standards, people don't respect that more. They disrespect it. They walk all over you. And it's not always intentional. It's just that if anything goes with you, then why even consider anything else? The most respectful thing and the easiest way to get respect from people is to have boundaries and to stand firm in them. And it might feel uncomfortable in the moment because when people bump up against a boundary and you have to remind them of it, it can feel uncomfortable at first. But you holding boundaries can be the best thing for someone else. It can be helping them learn things, teaching them how to respect you. You teach people how to treat you. Case in point. And so, yeah, I have clients offer to pay the no-show or late fee all the time through this pathway of communication that I've created. My policy requires a deposit, and if they need to cancel, they can always reschedule with a deposit applied. If not, I keep the deposit and allow one more booking. I love that. Doctors have cancellation fees. Hairdressers, it took a long time to raise the pricing rates on services. Sometimes have changed, and yes, clients need to adapt to our business policies we put in place. Love it. If a policy requires a deposit, a lot of the clients may never book. I never booked anywhere with a deposit when I was a client. Interesting. And so I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Raymoon. I think it really just depends on the energy you put into it because, and here's, I'm going to play devil's advocate just a little bit. If you would never pay a deposit for a service when you're a client, then likely you're going to put the energy in of like, you shouldn't be paying for this. I really believe if you don't feel convicted and convinced in what you're doing, then you can do all the right things and it won't come across right. So I'm writing that down, convicted and convinced, because that's, it's really true. Like if you don't believe in your price is worthy, like this is like, not even with policy, but I see people being like, okay, I figured out my prices, but this scares me. And then you go like, okay, your price today is like $250 as opposed to like, hey, it's $250 today. So if you don't believe that a deposit is worthy of being put on, then yeah, don't do it, because the energy you put into it, people will question it because you're not confident in it. And so if you're not confident in it, it won't work. But a lot of people do charge deposits and it works for them. I never did it, but it can work. I have lost clients recently for putting a booking policy in place. Yeah. I remember when we started a salon that I worked at, we started to require a credit card, and a long-term client like kicked up a huge stink. You know, and the one thing that okay, you guys are liking this. I love it. The one thing that we said is we just reminded them, like, I understand that this is different than what we've ever done before, and change can be hard. However, similar to hotels who take your credit card, we're not going to be using it. We actually can't access it. It was like all through a system. And so if this is still uncomfortable to you, we understand. And there's, what's the word I'm looking for? There's exceptions to everything. I'm not like a stick in the mud. And that's why I've been changing and shifting my education a little bit to having more live containers with things so that you guys can hear, like, there's nuances in everything, right? But we need to have respect. And so if a client kicks up a storm, I'm not saying you can't make an exception, but do you need to make an exception right away? Like if a long-term client's like, I don't want my credit card on file, and they've always shown up, they've never been late, and it's a really good report. And you can always say, like, tell me more about help me understand why this is hard for you. I'd like to share with you why we've implemented this policy. And then the one thing I've heard that people say is like, just as similar like to booking a hotel when they take your card to have on file to reserve it, that's what we're doing. We're protecting our business. Now, because you've never shown up late or you've never mistreated us, likely we'll never have to use this. But I'd like to understand if there's something that's causing you fear or worry about putting your credit card on file or enter whatever it is. And then have compassion and empathy to understand and listen to their perspective. And then if it is somebody that you're like, you know what, let me think about this. You don't have to make a plan right away, but have that compassion. Let me think about this. And again, what's with the dots? I'm confused. Does anyone else see all those like dots showing up? The compassion piece can really bring a constructive conversation together with your clients. So if a client kicks back and being like, I shouldn't have to pay, and you've had the conversation and they've agreed to the consequence ahead of time, being like, okay, I know we had a conversation about my cancellation policy before and you agreed to it. Can you help me understand what's feeling not fair right now? And then getting and hearing their perspective, because sometimes they're thinking something completely different. And if you can keep the level, the intensity on a good level, and if they're getting high, it's what we do is we tend to match someone else's energy. So if a client starts to get irate, then we kind of go up there too. And that's where having a regulated nervous system is really important. So you need to, I have lots of scripts and templates. You guys have probably heard of my Client Convo Mastery. It's in my highlights under CCM, Client Convo Mastery. And it's over 50 scripts and templates for sticky situations. However, a template and a script is good thing to start with to help you learn, but you need to have adaptability, improvisation, and a regulated nervous system in order to navigate these conversations when they come up. A script and a template are helpful tools, but the skill you need to develop is adaptability, improvisation, and a regulated nervous system to stay calm in these moments, to not go up and match the frequency that your client's showing up, but to stay calm and compassionate, right? Does that make sense? You need the tools, but you also need the skills. Tools help you do the skills better, help you perform your skills better. Does that make sense? Questions? I see a question in the question box here. Is it better to have a deposit or to take the card info to charge later in case the cancellation no-show? Or is there a preference? I think it's all up to you, right? It's all up to you. So I've had instances where I took a card on file because the booking system that I had allowed it. So I didn't have access to their card. I could charge it, but I couldn't copy the number and go shopping with it, right? And that was really safe. And I felt good about that. I've never taken deposits. That being said, some people take deposits. I don't know how. So here's the thing, I'm here, I help service providers build their business stress-free, taking things off your plate. Unless the software has the ability to track the deposit, that adds way more to-dos on my plate. So I'm not sure. Anyone who takes a deposit, let me know how you track it, if someone's paid it, and if you secure their appointment before or after. It seems for me, taking a deposit seems like a lot more steps, but I also have never done it, so I don't know if there's an easier way to do it. So I just did a card on file. that does run the risk of someone having an expired card on file, depending on if your software tracks that. And so there's always going to be loopholes. There's always going to be things that like aren't 100%. And that's why having a card on file is a good system. It's a good tool, but you need to develop the skill of building trust, respect, loyalty, and authority. Because I've had a card on file and I've had someone say, well, I'm just going to call my bank and dispute it. I had someone no-show and then say, I'm going to call. I was like, okay, no worries. I'm going to have to enforce my policy. No, I'm going to call my bank and dispute it if you do that. It happened on my birthday one year. Really sucked. I think it was like 2016 or something. And so just know that you can put all these things in place. You can have all the right steps. You can do the checklist, which is great. You can have the template and the script. Good, yes, helpful. But if you don't have the skills to communicate compassionately, building trust, respect, loyalty, and authority with your clients, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay? Is that making sense? And then what happened? I'm not sure. I'm missing these. And then what happened? Did I answer the question? Ash and Nails, did that help? Did they get the money back? Who, the client? So the person who said, I'm going to go to the bank and dispute the charge? So then I decided, so this was in 2016, so I decided in that moment, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Because as a business, if you get a charge back, it can look bad. And that's why I always say, like, when people like to threaten that is such a low brow, like, I realized that that's not a client I wanted to have in my business. If someone was going to no-show me, and then when I showed up, and this is 2016, so I didn't like have all these skills yet. I didn't have all these tools. I can't remember. I felt like I dealt with it quite maturely and compassionately, but she got really, really defensive, right? And I think the client knew she was in the wrong about no-showing, and she didn't want to pay, and so she went full aggression. And I was like, I don't want to deal with someone like that. And is it worth the money to try to charge her card and then her possibly do a chargeback with the bank? Or do I just not let her book in again and not try to take the money? And that's what I chose. I did a game day decision. You know what? It's not that I don't feel justified in this, but I don't know. Client needs to be blocked and deleted. Yeah, I knew that wasn't a client that I wanted in my business, and it wasn't worth the energy and frustration that I would continue to feel if I had to deal with a chargeback. So I believe, this is so long ago, but I believe what I did is I decided not to charge her and just said, no worries. I think it's best that this is where our relationship ends. So I put up a boundary. I'm not going to charge her, but I'm not going to let her book anymore. Really important. Cool. Well, if you guys are interested in knowing more about how to charge for consultations, how to build trust, respect, loyalty, and authority through them, and how to create that communication pathway, stick around to my lives this week. It's going to be really, really good. If you didn't know, I have programs that we can dive deeper to go into the nuances of this. I have the policy pathway. I also have Rock Your Business, which covers everything. It's your stress-free guide to earning six figures. I am here to help service providers create a better life, business, and bank account in that order. Also, I have a retreat coming up in October. You are invited to apply for. Just comment the word retreat or DM me the word retreat and it'll send you the link to apply. I would love to chat to see if it's the right thing for you. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day, and until tomorrow, stay weird. Bye.